to English to make everything that he said accessible to non-Hebrew speakers, in particular our Jewish community here. We'll be posting it tonight, the entire interview, with subtitles. Please share it. I find it especially important because there are many translated clips from the interview being circulated, and the clips have something for everyone to make their particular point. There's no shortage of fuel for the public relations war to once more demonstrate Hamas's evil and cruelty. For promoters of religion, there's Eli's discovery of the power of faith and prayer in captivity. There's the clear evidence, that the glorification of cruel treatment of Hamas prisoners in Israel exacts a price from the hostages. There's the lived value of mutual responsibility among the hostages. There's the call for unity and the critique of the Red Cross. A great post from our community even maps Eli's survival skills to business and career success. I think, though, that each person ought to dedicate 50 minutes on the couch to hear Eli Sharabi recount his experience of nearly 500 days on the mattress in the tunnels and hear his most important messages for themselves. To me, it is clear, and his stated reason for tearing off the unhealed scabs of his trauma against medical advice is to fight for the immediate return of the remaining hostages. This is the second time that I've translated an account of someone who went from captivity to freedom. My Aunt Hella's memoir centered on the Holocaust. The difference is that I knew Hella from years spent at her kitchen table on Kibbutz Shuval, 15 miles due east of Eli's home on Kibbutz Be'eri. Like her stories, Eli's relates the prevalence of hunger above other forms of suffering in his experience, something that I can't really understand. It took Hella more than 60 years to expose her suffering to the world, while Eli ran in front of the camera within days. Not because he is braver or has a different personality, but because this event is not over. Hostages remain in captivity, and he risked his recovery to use his platform to fight for them. I don't know Eli, but I kind of know Eli. One of the city kids who came to live and go to school on the kibbutz, playing, working, partying with the kibbutz kids or with the European volunteers who were a fixture of life in that era. Some marrying and making home in Holland or Denmark, and others sending down roots deep in the dusty, less soil of the Negev, raising the next generation of kibbutznikim. What struck me most from the interview was Eli's description of asserting control in a situation where he had almost zero control, and focusing that control on a singular goal, survival. He explains the difference between a small pasta meal that cannot be saved and must be eaten immediately versus a quarter pita that he can save and decide when he will eat it to help him survive another day. As desperately as we all want the hostages returned, we have all felt for nearly a year and a half that we have no control over the situation. No way to really affect decisions being made. But Eli's example is to assert even the tiniest amount of control and influence that we can find, to use that quarter pita to survive, or in our case, to help others to survive, with great care and intent, laser focused on the goal, because the only control we have is when to eat that quarter pita. As I was translating the interview yesterday, a clip of another hostage return, which you'll hear, was circulating with praise of the hopefulness and resilience of our people. In my typically blunt and judgmental way, I replied that unity and hope are meaningless if not converted to action focused on the goal at hand, returning the remaining hostages. We must use our quarter pita with intent and focus. Fighting the Free Palestine crowd on social media wastes our quarter pita. Glorifying our people's strength without action wastes our quarter pita. So someone in the group said, okay, what action should people in the diaspora take? And my answer is to influence Jewish organizations to take a stand. It was so upsetting, really, when the Conference of Presidents of major Jewish organizations met in Israel, and Diaspora Minister Amichai Shikli was scheduled to address them. And thousands, many here, implored them to retract the invitation in protest of his vote against the hostage deal and his promise to vote against future deals. They said they didn't want to get involved in, quote, internal Israeli politics. Well, I have news for them. Not only is it not internal Israeli politics, and it's a humanitarian issue and a Jewish issue, it is actually a diaspora issue. For those who are geographically challenged, the hostages are not being held in the sovereign state of Israel. A synonym of the word diaspora in Hebrew is golah. Golah means exile, and the hostages were forcibly exiled from the Jewish state and are held in another land against their will. In that sense, this is no more an internal Israeli issue than the Soviet prisoners of Zion. It is a global Jewish issue. The Conference of Presidents may not be able to change Shikli's mind, the result of a vote in the cabinet, or Netanyahu's machinations to avoid a deal. But to continue the metaphor, they got the half pita and a couple of dates that Eli told of receiving occasionally. They got extra. They had a tiny bit more control, more agency, more influence over the hostages' survival than we have felt that we have for 500 plus days. And they let it slip through their fingers. It's as if Eli received that extra pita and dropped it in the toilet. So today, driving my little EV to Sunnyvale with my wife and dogs and joining everyone here is my quarter pita. This is our quarter pita today, together. Tomorrow, we get another quarter pita to use as best we can to get the hostages out. Any lever on the Israeli government seems the most likely to make a difference, not fighting the pro-Hamas crowd. But whatever we do, if it is to have any impact, it is probably uncomfortable. It probably means confronting rather than avoiding disagreements within our own community. It means criticizing and lobbying the Israeli government, even during a time of war. So let's make the best of our quarter pita every day until every hostage, living and dead, is returned home. Thank you.